is their great defensive line with
Mm-hmm.
Clowney and J.J. Watt. Um, I mean, one thing I love about this kind of game is that they're division opponents, so they've played each other twice. They know each other very well. How did the
Right.
first two games go?
Well, the first game, of course, I was week 4 at Indianapolis, and that was just a mind blowing game because, of course, like I said, we're still getting the feel of things. Of course, the fourth down plays come back to haunt us because Chuck Pagano was good on the fourth down plays and with nothing in return. And then there's Frank Wright, and a lot of people will argue, well, he should have played for the tie. He should have played, just something instead of not going for it on that 4th and 1 or whatever it was. But Frank Wright is so aggressive. He wanted to play to win. He did not want to play for that tie. So, it was a close game on that week 4 play, that game. But, you know, it always comes back. Well, if we were 100% healthy, would it have been, a different turnaround? And of course, then week 14 comes along. We have to go to Houston. TY is healthy. TY plays phenomenal in Houston, and it was amazing. I ran into some stats um, in the career that TY Hilton has in Houston, or just playing Houston alone. And out of 14 games, he had 76 catches for 1,445 yards
Oh my
and
goodness.
nine touchdowns. And his average is 103.2 yards per game. And that's just versus Houston, whether it's in Indianapolis or whether it's in Houston. That's why, everyone says TY owns Houston. And of course, we know the comments with him between him and everything else. But and even the joke on Wikipedia has, that he owns the Texans. But anyways, it's
I love
wonderful.
when they do stuff like that.
Whatever Colts fan did that, I will applaud you. But
Funny.
I mean, this is a real rivalry game, and yeah, they are playing each other, for the third time, which is kind of rare. But these two teams do know each other well. Like I said, it is a true rivalry. You can go on about stories about rivalries and things like that. These two teams play against each other every season. They win some, they lose some. Of course, we know what happened last season, with, us not even being able to do anything. But this is a true rivalry game. It's going to be a very, very close game. And hopefully we'll have another explosive T.Y. Hilton game. That of course, if he's healthy, because he's been struggling with that ankle injury, and you could even see it last week versus Tennessee. He was in pain, but he wants Houston. He's going to get Houston. So,
Yeah.
if he plays through the pain, bless the man. It's just whatever he can handle, but he's going to end up playing, and hopefully we'll see a great game tomorrow night or tomorrow afternoon. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's yeah, he literally owns Houston. But I also can't believe Eric Ebron, that he's
Hmm.
had an amazing season. I mean, he was basically a bust in Detroit, and they
Right.
hated him because they had such high expectations, and he leaves there, comes to the Colts, and just has one of the best seasons a tight end's ever had.
Right. He, along with him and even Marlon Mack, and just there's so many different ways now that Andrew Luck, so many different weapons that he has that he can go to. And if one is down, their motto lately with the Colts is next man up. Who's going to fill in? Who's going to take this role? And it seems to be working out. There were a couple times where Ebron was out. There was a couple times when even Marlon Mack or Ty, and now we have the Jack Doyle out due to his kidney issues. It's just there's so many weapons there that we can just swap. And Andrew Luck is not consistent with one person. He's got so many different options now, and I think that's why it's working so well for him. Just all these different weapons coming at him, and it's it's a great outcome for him.
Yeah, I mean, even if you Even if they're able to stop Hilton or Ebron, I mean, you still have Dontrell Inman.
Right, yes. And then you have Pascal coming in, which the last game that he had played, everyone's talking, yeah, he could be our number 2 wide receiver. There's just so many different pieces that are coming together. And I was even preaching, maybe in the season, maybe in a couple of seasons, we'll all get it together. Apparently, it took off. So there's just so many different choices right now. It's just unbelievable.
Such a surprise. Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. It's great. So, what do you think the Colts will win this game?
Well, I'm hoping that they do. I've been going along with a score of their 27-24. Definitely the Colts. I'm hoping we can go and face Mahomes. I would love to see that matchup. But again, Houston is Houston is very similar with the Colts. It can go either way, but I have to say the Colt fan in me just comes out, and I would love to see the Colts.
I agree with you. I think the Colts are going to win also. I think they'll win by maybe a touchdown or something like that. But oh my goodness, Colts against Chiefs would be such a great matchup.
Right. Yeah.
First one to 100 wins.
That's true, but you know what? I'm not too fond of those high scoring games. Give me a close game, and goodness, that would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like that either. Like that game where the Chiefs played the Rams, it was 55-45 or something like that.
Right.
Like, I don't know. You need some defense too. It's just when you know each team is going to score every single time. I don't know. That to me that's not really football.
Well, the game that really I will say that I enjoyed, even though we lost, was that Jaguars game. I thought it was a great defensive game. Yes, again with Frank Wright and his fourth down plays, there were a couple times Frank, you should have gone for it. Frank, maybe you shouldn't. It was a game of defense, and I think our defense against the Jags did pretty well by holding them just to 3 points instead of them scoring. And that's the kind of game I really truly enjoy, is something low scoring like that, and where two defenses apparently, Jacksonville had the better defense, which is fine. It's probably something that the Colts needed to learn, but give me a game like that any day, and that's like a great game to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much. This was great. Julie Voigt, Julie noted _PFG, and now you have your own podcast, huh?
Yeah, I'm together with Jim Jacks. We do the For the Fan NFL podcast with Wanda Weidman. I believe you had her on your show yesterday.
Yep.
And with Jim Jacks, that show is so much fun because we just don't sit there and talk about the games. We sit there and talk about topics of the NFL. My favorite one was the top 10 concession stand foods of all time. And then we had the most murderous NFL players of all time. That one kind of freaked me out. At first I was like, oh, this could be really exciting. But, then hearing all these like horror stories that these players were, that one, it was pretty good, but it shook me up a little bit. But yeah, I mean, we have fun on this podcast and a lot of positivity because there's so much negativity out in the world, especially in the NFL. And, why not bring that positivity out? So we do that show. And then I do have my own Jules Colts Corner. And that's just pretty much a few minutes of just me and Jim Jacks, of course, going on about the Colts. So hopefully we can keep that Colts podcast rolling and keep going until February. That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah. I'm starting my podcast with Jim Jacks next week. And well, the Steelers still have a lot of news going on because they're literal stealers of attention with all their craziness going on. So
that's right.
So there's plenty to talk about, but most of it not good, just crazy. They're like Days of Our Lives and General Hospital. They should contact the Steelers and just take notes from them because all the storylines going on with the Steelers are way more interesting than any soap opera plot.
No, I had to laugh this week when I watched that Fox show, The Masked Singer,
Oh
and it was Antonio Brown. And one tweet I saw was just him. It was like a meme, him calling Ben Roethlisberger saying, "Hey man, I can't come to practice. I got this thing going," and then him being unmasked. That was the greatest one. I wish I would have snagged it and retweeted it or
That's
whatever, but
funny.
it was just so hilarious. So I
So
gotta give credit with that one.
so on my podcast, I was recording at the time, and I just happened to have the TV on, and we just spent me and these guys. We just spent 45 minutes talking just about Antonio Brown. I look on the TV, and what do I see? Antonio Brown on my TV singing like. He's like, this isn't real life. There's the guy's a hippo and he's on my TV right now. Like, I don't know what's going on.
That was great. I will have to applaud that one.
That was amazing. All right, thank you so much. This was awesome.
Oh, anytime. Thank you for having me.
Colts and Texans match up this Saturday in Wild Card weekend. With me to talk about it is Max Freedman. He is founder of Texans Journal and also contributes to Full Press Texans, Last Word on Sports, and Toro Times. Max, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing all right. Kind of bummed my Steelers aren't in the playoffs, but oh well. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, tough.
Yeah, it was tough, but this matchup looks really good. I love when division foes play each other in the playoffs because they know each other so well, and it looks like the rivalry with the Colts is pretty even. It looks like since 2015, it's basically they split it even.
Yeah, well, when Luck's playing, they're dangerous, but the roster really up until this year has been pretty bad around Luck. This is the first year where we've really seen a team that can be like a seriously dangerous team come playoff time, and seems like they can compete with any team, especially down the stretch here. They've gotten really hot, so it should be an interesting game this week with the Texans and the Colts.
I'm really surprised at the Colts. Yeah, I did not expect them to be this good. I figured Andrew Luck would be, would make the team better, but yeah, their whole team in general got a lot better, so that's to their credit. But the Texans, they kind of remind me of the Steelers in that the Steelers have a few good stars and they relied on them big time, and that's basically Houston. Deshaun Watson, Hopkins, J.J. Watt. They have some really good players, and looks like they all came through this year.
Yeah, everybody performed pretty much to expectation. Watson wasn't as good as last year in his short sample size, but you really can't expect him to continue doing what he was doing. Clowney in a contract year maybe didn't perform as well as we maybe would have liked. He had a ton of pre-snap penalties, cost us in some big moments, but for the most part, he's still being really good. Watt as like a possible comeback player of the year, along with Luck, he's being superb. Hopkins too has been amazing. We do rely on our superstars, and like they've got us to the point where we are right now, for sure.
Yeah. But that's still, they started out 0-3 and then rattle off 9 wins in a row. Why did they start off so bad, and then what got them going?
Well, we had our opener against the Patriots, and they were without Edelman from suspension, and the Pats usually do start off pretty slow, and it was a completely winnable game. The Pats turned the ball over, I think, 3 times, if I'm remembering correctly, and we were in the game the whole time. Watson looked rusty coming back, playing his first meaningful game from his torn ACL, and he really didn't look the same. The offense wasn't moving the ball, and we just dropped that game. The next game was a game in Tennessee, and you really never know what you're getting with the Titans. They've lost to the Bills in a horrible loss. They've also smoked the Pats in a big win. So we didn't exactly get a great Tennessee, but I guess a loss on the road to Tennessee is somewhat reasonable. And then just a horribly coached game, horribly executed game against the Giants to go 0-3. And it was really inexcusable. I was calling for Bill O'Brien to get fired at that point. Everything was just